Doubt is one of the strongest feelings known to man. I would argue that it fuels hate, overpowers it even. You can doubt yourself, doubt others, you can even doubt things, ideas, beliefs. We were taught to find answers, to solve for X, that there was always a solution. But at the same time, we were taught that the world always can be misleading, that if something says always, it's most likely lying. So, what is it? Is there always an answer, or is there always a lie? And that, right there, is doubt. I overcame doubt, spawned from it, grew from it, learned from it, and came out stronger than before. Timothy wasn't as fortunate, but everyone makes mistakes, I guess. We were in love, or what I remember to be love, but things changed when we moved in together. Timothy had a way of spreading doubt. The way he talked with such conviction, he spoke as if his word was fact. I knew this when I first met him. It's what first attracted me to him. His confidence, his self-assuredness. What I didn't understand was the idea of being around that all the time. I just got snippets of it when we were dating. A firm word here, a strong statement there. But when we moved in together, it was every day and every conversation. I was not like that. I was meek, meager, pathetic, to say the least. I thought I knew things, and I thought I had a solid frame to stand on. Until Timothy came in and chipped away at my foundation. Growing up, I loved magic. Fell in love with it on my 6th birthday. It was before my party, and I was watching a magician on our little TV in the kitchen. He told the audience, that would be 6-year-old me, to put their finger on a balloon on the screen. So I picked one of the orange ones, my favorite color. One by one, he magically popped every balloon except the one my finger was on. There was no stopping me after that. Soon, my room was filled with black top hats, trick wands, magic cards, and velvet capes. I had posters of deck faces and suits lining my walls, and I was convinced that if I ever had a son, I would name him David after my 2 favorite magicians, Blaine and Copperfield. I got quite good at my magic. Quick fingers and a smirk usually did the trick. When I first showed Timothy my little party tricks, he laughed at me. At first, I laughed along, thinking he was enjoying himself. The moment quickly turned into one of mockery.
You cannot be serious, Nina. Magic?
He laughed, slapping his knee for extra measure. What? I tried covering up my hurt voice with a laugh. I've loved this stuff since I was a kid.
Yeah, a kid. You're not a child anymore.
He chided, taking a sip of water. I brushed my fallen bangs from my face. Well, you have to admit I'm pretty good at least. I tried sticking up for myself, slipping my deck of cards back into my purse. Most girls carried lip gloss and mirrors. I carried cards and coins.
Oh, what? Is it a God-given talent?
He scoffed, leaning his arm over the back of his chair. My voice failed me as I tried to think of something to say. He wasn't just mocking my hobby. He was now mocking my belief system, putting the two together, saying they were one and the same. My mouth opened and shut like a fish out of water, wanting to defend what I knew I believed, but at the same time, letting his words spin around in my head. An in-seeped doubt through the cracks of my brain.
Time to grow up, Nina.
Timothy raised his eyebrows as the waiter came by our table.
Hi. Yes. I'll have the...
My memory of our 3rd anniversary dinner slowly fades back into the recesses of my brain after that. Looking back, I can finally see everything he took away from me. Everything that he said was wrong or childish just because he thought he had the answers. And I, already corrupted by doubt, never bothered to ask him why or how. I never bothered to challenge him, to question him, to say he was wrong. He laughed at my stuff when we finally got everything unpacked in our apartment. Not my clothes or dishes or anything normal, mundane that I had. I tried quickly shoving the box underneath my side of the bed, but Timothy caught me before I could kick it fully under and out of sight.
What's that?
He asked, pulling my ankle away with a laugh. Nothing. I smiled, trying to distract him with a flirtatious hug. He didn't take the bait and quickly reached under the bed, sliding out a little cardboard box labeled Box of Tricks. I thought it was clever. Timothy did not.
Nina, honestly.
He sighed, ripping open the top to see my cards and top hats from when I was a kid.
This is not staying here.
They're just memories. I stopped playing around a long time ago. Why can't I just keep them as mementos?
Do you keep all your letters to Santa, too? Do you have your first quarter from the Tooth Fairy locked away in some box somewhere as a memento?
No. I groaned, hoping he never found the mounds of journals I kept from when I was still young. Tim, come on. I let you have all your books and little gadgets and stuff. Why can't I have my things?
Because mine are full of truths and fact that help expand the mind. Yours are childish, fake, and shield from the real world.
I knew at this point he wasn't just talking about my box of tricks. He was talking about me. Everything I loved, spent my time doing, believed in. He never let me watch the shows I wanted because they were a hindrance to my brain. I told him I got a job helping design pages for a fashion magazine, and the first thing out of his mouth was, well, that's not a real job, but at least it pays. He threw out my Harry Potter books, my fun board games, my sketch pads and watercolors. And then he got to my beliefs. My Bible was the first thing that went. When I came home from shopping one day, he said he had donated it to a homeless shelter, saying they needed a dream world more than I did. Then my cross pendant went missing, the one my godmother had gifted me when I was baptized. And the last straw was my little stone cross paperweight next to my bed. He didn't even try to hide the fact that he took it. He did it in plain sight. Just walked right over, swiped it off the bedside, and took it into the hallway to toss down the garbage chute. And I did nothing. Doubt is a heavy drug that kills from the inside out. It doesn't just start in your brain, it starts in your soul, tainting everything a gummy shade of black that seeps into your mind and fills your every waking hour with questions. The what ifs. It wears you down until you either take control or something else does. I remember the first night things started happening. 2 other couples were over at our apartment for a much-needed housewarming party. We chatted and laughed and caught up on what we had all been doing, and when I say we, I mean Timothy and the other couples. He never let me talk. I would try adding to the conversation, and he would just smile and hug me, taking over as if he knew what to say better than I did. I would crack a joke every now and then just to lighten the mood or have some fun, but he always steered back into some political discussion or scientific study. There was one fraction of a second within our housewarming party where we all sat in a peaceful silence, and that's when Marjorie spoke up. "Hey," she quipped, sitting up straighter and leaning forward off the couch toward me. "Let's play one of your fun games." I was about to argue when Timothy chimed in.
Good idea. Honey, could you run and get our Trivial Pursuit game from the closet?
"No, not that one," Marjorie said, tipsily spilling her drink over the edge of her glass. "One of the fun ones. One of Nina's games." I could tell Timothy was offended by Marjorie's idea of fun, but when the others slowly agreed with her, I saw the forced smile creep onto his face.
Of course. Honey.
He turned toward me.
Go get one of your games.
I tried not to look like a deer in headlights, but I could feel the size of my eyes growing abnormally large. He knew we didn't have those games anymore. He was the one that threw them away. And he was just going to act like he didn't have a clue what was going to happen when I got to the closet? I just smiled and nodded, pivoting on my feet before rushing down the hall. I opened the closet door, already thinking of lies to tell our friends. We must have lost it in the move. I think I forgot to pack them. They still must be at my parents' house. I was about to spew out one of those tall tales when my mouth snapped shut. There, lying neatly atop Timothy's stupid Trivial Pursuit, was my favorite game that he had thrown out weeks ago, Cards Against Humanity. The little box sat smack in the middle of the closet, neatly dusted and sparkling, waiting for me to take it out and play. I couldn't help the smile that grew over my lips. He's finally coming around, I thought to myself, picking up the box. Maybe Timothy will start having fun now. I pulled the box from the closet and shut the door with my hip, fingers too busy tapping the black lid in excitement. I waltzed back into the living room just in time to see Timothy turn to face me. His own features held an already knowing look of fake remorse, but shifted as he saw my beaming face. I held up the box and wiggled my eyebrows, hopping over to sit next to him. I kissed him on the cheek and opened the box. "Look what I found!" I saw a flash of what I thought was anger shift over his eyes as he looked at me before throwing on his fake smile.
Oh, good. You found a game.
"Yeah, my favorite one." I smiled, winking at him before leaning in to give him another kiss. "Thank you, sweetie," I whispered before setting up the game. After that, the night went great. We all had fun, and they ended up staying later than originally planned. It wasn't until after our goodbyes that things got strange. I remember shutting the door and running over toward Timothy. I wrapped my arms around him, smiling like an idiot. "You don't know how much that meant to me," I sighed. I'll admit, it was weird to be so sentimental over something as silly as a game, but he had thrown everything else away. To me, this was a ray of hope breaking through the cloud of doubt hanging over our apartment. The moment was cut short, though, as he pushed me away, shaking his head.
The only reason I wasn't upset with you is because we had company.
I crossed my arms. "What?"
You know how I feel about your play stuff. It doesn't belong in an intellectual house.
He all but barked at me. I know, I agreed, against my actual feelings. "That's why I was so excited when I found it in the closet."
Found it?
He scoffed.
More like bought it and hid it from me.
I didn't.
Please, Nina. Save the dramatics. I caught you in a lie. Just admit it.
Condescension oozed from him, hitting me in the face as I tried to keep myself calm. "I didn't buy anything. I thought you saved that game to surprise me. That's why I was so excited when I found it." Timothy chuckled in his throat, turning toward the bedroom and waving as he left.
Okay, sure. Hey, don't talk to me until you're ready to grow up, okay? I don't argue with children.
I winced as the door slammed shut. The couch was my bed that night, and I was awoken by the sound of pans clanging together. But it was the sweet, bakery smell of pancakes that made my eyes shoot open. I thought it might have been a peace offering. Maybe he'd finally come to realize that he had overreacted and that I wasn't a child. Maybe he was willing to admit that he had actually had fun and wanted to take part in the things I enjoyed. Maybe he was actually coming around. But as I sat up, I saw he only had one place set at the table. The mug of black coffee steamed in the early morning sun as he pulled out his chair. The stack of 3 plate-sized pancakes wobbled as he scooted his seat in, grabbing for the syrup. I could smell the sticky sugar and watched its honey-brown deliciousness coat each pancake as it drizzled down the side. My side of the table was bare and cold. It wasn't the first time I felt awkward in my own house, thanks to Timothy. Not only did he like to play the victim, he liked to play martyr. He was never wrong. He was always the good guy. So where did that leave me? On the couch with the cold side of the table. I remember walking to the kitchen to pour myself a cup of coffee, trying to act like none of this had bugged me. I didn't even bother looking over at Timothy, knowing he wasn't even interested in what I was doing, not until I apologized. "I'm not apologizing," I insisted, watching the black coffee swirl tan as I poured in my creamer. "I did nothing wrong. I didn't buy anything. I didn't hide anything. I'm not apologizing." I didn't realize I was banging the spoon against the sides of my cup until I accidentally spilled some of the coffee. The stinging droplets took me from my angered thoughts. I sloppily licked my hand clean, another thing Timothy hated, and took my seat at the table, flipping loudly through the catalog pages in front of me. I took a loud slurp from my mug, smacked my lips with a satisfied "ah," and cleared my throat. "Good morning," I stated, not bothering to look at him either.
Morning.
His curt response quickly followed after.
Still haven't decided to grow up, I see.
I threw down the magazine and turned toward him in my seat. "I didn't do it." I emphasized every word. "I don't know why you won't believe me."
Because, Nina, things don't just reappear after you get rid of them.
He sighed, rubbing his temples.
Look, I'm going to get ready for work. When I get out of the shower, I expect Nina back. The one I proposed to, not the little girl magical world version I'm getting now.
He stood up and stomped off to the bathroom. My fingertips rapped against the wooden table, steam seeming to come out from my ears. I snagged his half-eaten stack of pancakes from his plate and latched my teeth around the pillowy discs. I didn't do anything wrong, I reassured myself, taking another bite. I didn't go out and buy another game. I didn't hide anything from him. Right? And just like that, doubt reared its ugly head. All my anger melted away and was replaced with worry. My stomach turned to soup and my brain turned to mush as the what-ifs rushed in. What if I hid it and didn't remember? What if I went out and bought it and just don't remember? What if? No! The surviving part of my brain screamed at me. You didn't do any of that. But what if I did? What if my brain just doesn't remember? I've been under a lot of stress, so maybe I just pushed the memory away? The last remaining part of my working brain slowly suffocated among the anxiety, and before I knew it, I was thinking of an apology to say to Timothy. It had to be me. Timothy wasn't one to play around or pull pranks like this. I waited until he got ready for work and walked back into the living room before I went up to him. I kissed him on the cheek, told him I was sorry, and said I'd throw away the game if it would make things better.
Of course it would.
He smiled, kissing me on the forehead.
I just want you to live in the real world with me. That's all.
I know. I nodded, leaning my hip against the counter. See you later. Looking back, that was the moment I became a shell of a human. Everything I'd once stood for, believed in, enjoyed doing was taken from my life, and I just let it slip away. I didn't fight for it, so why should it have stayed in the first place? Things only got stranger from there. After I threw away the game, everything calmed down a bit. I think it was a week later that things started appearing again. It started with the playing cards. I would find a random card in a bowl I grabbed from the cabinet, the inside of my shoe, the pocket of a jacket I hadn't touched in months. I thought it was all just a coincidence, as ignorant as that may seem. I would think maybe a card fell into my shoe as I was throwing things away, or I must have missed this one while I was cleaning. But it wasn't until I found one stuck to the steam-slicked bathroom mirror that I knew something was happening. I'll never forget the chill that ran through my veins when I stepped out of the shower that morning. Despite the dense steam and fluffy towel wrapped around my body, goosebumps prickled my skin as my eyes locked with the red card. I gently patted over toward the mirror, watching the condensation streak clear tracks down parts of the glass, allowing bits of my reflection to stare back at me. It wasn't so much the fact that the card was stuck to the glass that made my heart seize. It was the handprint surrounding it. The long, disjointed finger marks smeared their way around the card edges. Long scratches where the thing's nails had touched left chunks of glass to be gouged out. I gently peeled back the card, scared it would bite me if I moved too fast, and turned to look at the suit. I shouldn't have been surprised when I saw the ace of spades. Of course, I didn't tell Timothy. I didn't tell him when my old books started showing back up on the shelf or when I found my box of tricks in the hall closet. I didn't tell him any of that, but I couldn't help talking when my nightmares started. I figured if I talked about them, they would go away. If anything, it made them worse. It started as me dreaming of our bedroom. Everything was normal, and I was just laying there, looking around. As my eyes trailed across the darkened walls, they snapped toward the corner. Something was there. I could feel it, sense it watching me, waiting for me. But the corner was too dark for me to see it. Every night I would have that dream, and every night the darkness in the corner spread farther and farther out, until I realized it wasn't the corner that was dark. It was the thing occupying it. Timothy said it was just my stress trying to manifest itself into something tangible, or my fear of something trying to make itself known, and, of course, we argued about it. I told him it wasn't just a dream, that it felt like a warning. He told me I was being childish. I told him he was being closed-minded. He told me to grow up. And I eventually said I'm sorry. I got less and less sleep each night. I would have rather woken up with purple bags under my eyes than see that black mass crawl closer toward my bed. But there's only so much coffee you can drink in a day before your body takes over and fights the added caffeine. My eyes betrayed me and fluttered shut, allowing my dream world to take over yet again. The dark bedroom, the dimmed walls. My eyes snapped to the corner, expecting to see that the black mass had grown bigger than before, but my eyes just met a dim point. I could see where the two walls met, the triangle point at the top where the ceiling came in, and I could even make out the ding of missing paint from where an old painting used to be. The black mass was gone, or at least, gone from the corner. My relieved smile evaporated from my face when I went to roll over. I felt the fingers sink into the mattress over my heavy blanket. The inky digits fanned out over my feet, smashing them into the bed underneath. Searing pain shot up my bones, trying to melt me from the inside out. The thing's shadowed face slowly peeked its way over the end of my bed, its deep maroon eyes glowing up at me. I tried to scream, tried to move, tried to do anything that would get the mass away from me. But my body was glued to the sheets, and my muscles turned to lead. The thing snaked its gangly arms up my body, rolling its knobby fingers up my calves, squeezing cramps into each one of my muscles. Then it moved to my kneecaps, moving the bones against their will. Then up to my thighs, my hips, my stomach, and finally resting on my shoulders. Despite its looming over my face, I still could not make out any features to it besides its eyes. They radiated the same heat that its hands did, burning holes into my own sockets. Tears welled at both the pain and fear, but the only thing I could move was my quivering chin. I felt the stinging hands slide up over my collarbones, threatening to break them under the pressure of its body, finally resting on my neck. I felt my windpipe crush into the back of my throat, closing off every path for oxygen to get into my lungs. I felt the thing laugh above me, its heavy frame shaking as it drank in my fear, seeming to only grow stronger the more I tried to struggle. My brain screamed for me to wake up because this had to be a dream. This had to be another form of stress manifesting itself. Right? That's what Tim would say. That's the logical thing to think, right? That it was just my brain? Just a dream? I felt the thing above me sink lower, its scorching breath searing the delicate skin of my ear.
You're not dreaming.
Before I could register what it had said, the black mass fell into me. I expected to feel its weight crash over my body, slamming me even farther into the mattress. Instead, I felt something in my chest. A strange sense of strength blossomed in my ribs and sunk deep into my bones, making me feel as if my skin would split open like a butterfly cocoon. The tendons of my hands bulged at the surface of my skin as my body cramped and convulsed. My jaw unhinged from its place and a foreign growl erupted from my throat. The distorted pitch ripped through the air and seemed to spur on the growing feeling in my chest. My body was flung up into a sitting position and my voice returned to its regular terrified scream. I was finally able to catch my breath in choppy bursts, my lungs fighting between trying to breathe and trying to cry. Timothy was up in a matter of seconds, the intrusive light from his bedside table searing my already red-rimmed eyes. I flung myself into his arms, not caring that my body screamed in protest to any sort of movement. I clung to his arms and buried my head into his chest, trying to make comfort in knowing that he was real.
What happened?
His half-asleep voice asked.
Are you okay? What's wrong? Why are you crying?
I tore my face away from his chest and looked at him in the eyes. Timothy, it was my dream. The thing attacked me. It did something to me, and I couldn't breathe. I sobbed and collapsed back into his chest.
It's all right.
He cooed, brushing down my hair.
It was just a dream, Nina. Go back.
No! I frantically shook my head, eyes crazed. It wasn't a dream. I felt it. It hurt, Tim. It spoke to me.
Nina.
And the things reappearing all over the apartment. Cards, games, books. Everything you threw out is coming back, and I think it's because of him.
Nina, no.
Will you just listen to me? I shrieked. I know you think it's crazy, that I'm crazy, but you have to believe me. You have to believe me. I started sobbing, desperation filling every part of my body.
Okay.
Timothy tried calming me down. He brushed my arms and rubbed them for a second, trying to collect his thoughts.
If what you're saying is true, why would that thing keep bringing stuff back?
I shook my head, trying to find an explanation myself. I don't know. Maybe to try and prove that it's there? Trying to mess with me?
So, whatever it was bad?
He tried offering. Evil, I corrected. I know it was evil. It had to be evil.
And how do you know?
I sat there, mouth opening and shutting, as I tried to find the words to explain it. I ended up shaking my head, bringing my shoulders up into a shrug. I just felt it, like when you can feel a storm before it hits. The static in the air. Timothy sighed and sat up straighter on his side of the bed.
So, let me get this straight.
Before he even continued his thought, I knew it was going to be something to argue against what I had to say.
You're telling me that something from your dreams, something evil from your dreams, is randomly giving you back everything that I threw away?
My body went numb as I finally found the missing link. The word everything circled around my brain. Not everything was returned. Sure, my little playing cards and memories of magic were brought back, but there was still a collection of things that were missing. My crosses, I whispered, piecing everything together. And my Bible. They were never brought back. They couldn't be brought back because it couldn't touch them. Because it's evil.
Nina, stop.
Tim, we need to get them back. I panicked, rushing to get up off the bed. I felt Timothy's strong grip on my arm and winced, a white-hot pain burning through my bones at his touch.
Nina, this is insane. None of that is real.
I sat there, falling back onto the heels of my feet. I pulled up my pajama sleeve to see a deep red welt lining my skin above where my veins laid. I pulled aside the neck of my top and stuck out my shoulder, seeing deep gashes where clawed fingers once gripped out of the corner of my eye. I lulled my head back toward Timothy and stuck out my arms. What about these? Are these real? I asked, my monotone voice almost sounding foreign to me again.
Babe.
Timothy gasped, leaning forward to grab my hands.
What did you do?
I didn't do anything, I urged. You have to believe me. Timothy's already white face sunk a shade lower, almost growing translucent under the yellow lamplight. His wide eyes surveyed my battered skin as he gently ran his fingertips over the scorching welts. I didn't have to touch them to know they were giving off heat.
Nina,
he said, his voice barely above a whisper.
You need help.
I smiled, thinking he was ready to accept that something out of the ordinary was happening. My frown quickly returned as he kept talking.
I know you want me to believe in these things, but self-harm isn't going to solve anything.
There was a moment where neither of us moved or spoke. We just sat there, looking at each other. It was in this moment when I felt it again. The blossoming burn in my chest. I ripped my hands away from him and moved back toward my side of the bed. "You think I did this?" I hissed, sticking out my arms again. "With what claws, Timothy? Huh?" I pulled up my pant leg to reveal blistering bubbles over the skin of my ankle. "And these two? I suppose I took a blowtorch to my skin just to prove a point."
Nina,
No! I interrupted. "You don't know anything! You've no clue
what you're talking about."
My voice had gotten more guttural than I thought possible as I slinked off the bed and stalked toward his side. "You act like you know everything and hide behind your history books and politics, but when one little thing goes against something tangible, it's gotta be false, right? Despite whatever evidence is shown," I said, showing him my arms. "But this isn't actual proof, now is it?" I crept my way over toward his side of the bed, watching as he shrunk back toward the headboard. The more fear he showed, the funnier everything got to me. His bulging eyes, his shaking hands. It all made me want to laugh. I got to his side of the bed and grabbed for his wrists, yanking him forward with the strength I didn't know I had. "Well, how about this, Timmy? Why don't I show you how I got all these marks, and then you'll see how real everything is?" My hand snapped around his neck and I slammed his body back into the mattress, crawling on top of him and pushing down with all my might. "Or how about I flatten you into paper and print one of your precious books on your flesh, huh?
Would that be proof enough for you?"
I felt the giggles erupt in the middle of my chest, coming out as deep hums as I continued to press my fingers into Timothy's neck. He let out one strangled gurgle, letting a bubble of spittle pop as he tried talking. That one little struggle seemed to snap me out of whatever started to grow in my chest, and I released my hands. My cuts burned and my eyes fogged with hot tears as I crawled off my fiancé. I... Stammering words fell from my lips as I backed away from the bed. I ran into the bathroom and turned on the faucet, not bothering to stop as Timothy choked out my name. I let the chilled water pool in my red palms before slapping it against my face. I let the water fling over my skin, into my hair and down the front of my pajamas, not interested in being careful about the mess I was making. I looked up and went to rub the water from my eyes when I saw it. Behind me, in the mirror, was the black mass looming over me. Before I could call out, the thing wrapped its arms around my stomach and threw me backward. My back slammed against the tiled wall of the bathroom like a magnet being thrown at a fridge. The mass was gone, but its heat remained. I felt it push against my body, gradually sliding me up the wall. Its invisible fingers dug into my arms, indents rolling over my skin where it grabbed me. I fought to keep my toes on the ground as my eyes caught movement from the bathroom door. Timothy stood in the doorway, arms limp at his sides. I saw the red marks from where I had strangled him not but 2 minutes ago. But that seemed to be the least of his worries. My vision started to dot with black spots, slowly growing fuzzier around the edges the longer I was pushed into the tile. The pain in my chest burst right open, not bothering to gradually build like the other times. I felt the pain pump through my body, fingertips pulsing against whatever had invaded me. I opened my mouth and screamed, "Help me!" The end of my words coming out in the same distorted growl I'd made in my dream. I don't remember how I got down or how I ended up in the basement of our apartment, but that's where I woke up. My face was crusted with what I thought were tears, but as I moved to get up, I noticed the crust was over my entire body. Timothy's blood washed from my skin pretty easily, but it had permanently stained my mind. To this day, I still don't know where his body is or what I did to him. I ended up filing a missing persons report, not totally lying when I told the police I don't know where he went. I don't know what triggers it or why, and some cases are worse than others. I could wake up and have only a couple of hours lost, or I could wake up weeks later not knowing where I am or whose blood I'm covered in. I don't know how to stop it or where to go for help, but I'm not sure that I want to. One thing I do know is this. Doubt is one of the strongest feelings known to man. I overcame doubt, spawned from it, grew from it, learned from it, and came out stronger than before. Timothy wasn't as fortunate, but everyone makes mistakes, I guess. My biggest mistake was straying from what I loved. I loved fantasy, magic, believing in the impossible. At the end of the day, everything came full circle. Now I'm one of the greatest magicians ever. I go to sleep in one place and wake up in another, with a little help from my friend, of course. He's the mastermind behind all of this. I'm just his vessel, the empty shell that he made whole again. He does the magic, he pulls the tricks. But the greatest trick my friend ever did was convincing the world he doesn't exist.